One of the most valuable things is how to connect with the consumer, regardless of whatever business that you're in. And we have a fantastic speaker who's going to talk to us about that, right? You guys ever heard the phrase, if you build it, they will? Oh my God, what is going on? If you build it, they will? Not if they don't know about it, right? So you have to make sure that you market properly. And we've talked about reaching those generations. And our next session is Meme, Myself, and I. Is that not like that's so awesome. Meme, Myself, and I. And our speaker today is Mr. Justin Crawford. Justin is a digital marketing consultant and founder of Xccess, helping businesses better reach and serve homeowners and renters. After starting his business in 2015, he's worked with over 50 companies of all sizes across the United States, including 5 Fortune 1000 companies. Justin received his master's degree in marketing and is currently completing his doctorate in marketing as well. Prior to starting his business, Justin co-founded DREAM, which stands for Dramatically Reconstructing Education through African American Males, and has led the marketing team for Girls Empower. Those are 2 nonprofits based in Southern California, focused on serving underprivileged youth. He's also led teams in the United States, Canada, and Mexico in developing sustainable business practices for the largest transportation management provider in North America. Justin was trained by former Best Buy and Clear Channel senior leaders at Pepperdine University, where he earned his bachelor's in business administration. And I've had an opportunity to get to know Justin over the last couple of days. And on top of all that, he's just a really fantastic guy. You know, one of those people that can just about do anything. So you guys are in for a treat, all right? Put your hands together for Justin Crawford.
Peace up, A-Town.
That's when you cut it. Good job, good job. How's everybody doing this morning? Good, good. It's always a 50-50 chance when you say that no one responds, so thank you guys for responding. I appreciate that. So today, I just want to walk you guys through next-gen marketing. That is marketing to the next generation, but also the next generations of marketing. So just to give you some background about me, in 2015, when I started Social Access, it was to alleviate that age-old problem of businesses pouring money into the conventional ways of marketing and advertising, but not really having a way to measure their ROI. So we focus on being able to help companies identify what's actually working for them. And I think all of that is a byproduct of knowing where your audience lives, how to connect to their target audience, and what ways do they prefer to be connected with, not the way that everyone else does it. Okay, so first let's go through some high-level information. Today's borrowers, they're young and they're multicultural. 1 out of 3 homes that were purchased last year were purchased by a millennial, and 46% of millennials identify as ethnic minorities. So that's important information for you to know. In the past, the industry dictated the buying process. So things were done because that's just the way that they were done. Most of that buying process took place offline, and it was very straightforward. You pick up the phone and that's how you're communicating, right? Or face-to-face, which is still great. But today, it's more omni-channel driven. People want to receive information in a variety of ways, and you need to be able to accommodate that. Some people prefer email, text. They want to digest information from a video as opposed to reading a bunch of copy. And they use social media as an information source as well. So you need to be present there, or at least know where your audience wants to interact with you, and then use information to accommodate them and change your marketing strategy. Reach modern consumers with a social outreach strategy, right? So don't sell, provide value. Let your product sell itself. I think we've been echoing that, over all 3 days is, your product should be able to sell itself. That makes your job a lot easier. Not all of us are salesmen. We're great at what we do, but we're not salesmen. So let your product sell itself and provide value. And you can do that through education. Empower people to make smarter decisions. Educate them by enabling them with resources that are going to get them in contact with you so you can help advise them, and hopefully that leads to conversion. Use social media to connect with your consumers. Be active, be present, and be human. It's okay to support a cause. It's okay to have an opinion as a company. People prefer that. And partner with your community leaders and events to offer free educational resources or even consultations just to get you in front of your target audience. Characteristics and values of next-gen buyers. So we're a little different. I'm a millennial. I'm realizing that we're we want things now. We're a tad bit entitled, but I'm a millennial, so I don't want to go too far in on my fellow peers, but we grew up with technology from a young age, right? And Gen Z, the next generation behind us, they don't know a life without technology. If you show them a VCR, they'll think it's like a grilled cheese sandwich maker or something. They have no idea what a world without technology is. Face-to-face scares them, right? So keep that in mind. Some people don't want to have face-to-face interaction, but test your audience and see how they want to communicate, right? Value for transparency. Kind of how we spoke to before. In the past, organizations and industries could dictate the sources that people received information from, and then they could also dictate the information that was given out, right? But today, people prefer independent research. They want to be able to look into a product or service themselves, right? So it's your job to dictate that narrative around your brand. And you can use social media. It's now easier than ever to do that. On average, we're spending 4 hours a day on mobile devices. So it's important for you to know that. Know how people are interacting with the brand. Is it on desktop? If it's on mobile. If your site isn't mobile friendly, you could be hurting your conversions tremendously. If you're focusing on the desktop version or a particular browser, but you haven't even opened up your site or seen what comes up in searches for mobile versus desktop, you could be missing a lot of opportunities, and you could also be hurting yourself. You could have errors out there that you need to correct. Social media use. So Gen Z and millennials, they use social media not only to retrieve information, but to connect with friends and also for entertainment, right? So know that that's where your audience lives. Even if you're not using those tools as a way to get direct leads, that's still a way for you to stay at the top of mind and be sharing all of the initiatives that you're doing. Millennials prefer Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter over Snapchat and YouTube. However, that's not to say that YouTube and Pinterest can be very useful for your brand. The idea of authority is what Google uses to rank your brand, right? So always keep in mind that if you want to come up to the top of local searches or anything relevant to your product, you need to be spread as far as you can across the web, and people need to be sharing your information. It's traffic and it's relevance that are going to determine that. And it's so important to have a mixture of paid leads that you pay to acquire, but you also need a mixture of inbound, those organic leads, right? And that mix is so important because it can really alleviate a lot of the burden on your shoulders as far as selling, right? You need stuff coming inbound, and organic search is just the way to do that. Short attention span. On average, the average consumer now has an 8-second attention span, right? So you need to be conveying information fast. People don't want to read a bunch of copy. Video is a great way to do that. Using that same real estate that you would get from a social media post, you can use that same real estate to convey a 1-minute, 2-minute message. And it's just a little bit more engaging when it's video. If you're deathly afraid of being on camera, try an animated video. Try doing animated short, those little explainer videos you see with a voiceover. There's different tools out there like Powtoons, or you can even find a great agency. I know of one in particular that you can work with, but I'm not here to sell anything. But find a graphic designer. Use Powtoons. There's tools out there that can enable you to create those minute videos. Investing $500 into advertising, you invest it and it's gone. Hopefully you get some leads from that. Investing that same money into a video, that's marketing ammunition that you can use over and over and over again. And then you can even provide that with the hopes of getting contact information back. You provide a playbook or a guide, you can now promote that instead of promoting your services. Now people are giving their information over for that valuable information, and you're developing a relationship around providing value as opposed to only the sale. We also don't have patience for slow tech. If your website's loading up slow, or if people are wanting you to respond to them and you're not getting in contact with them within 1 to 2 hours, they're already looking for the next best thing. So after 24 hours, your chances of contacting people are getting in contact with people that have reached out to you dropped tremendously. And that's across the board for all industries. So make sure you're getting back in contact with people fast, and all of your tech is mobile friendly for your users. Social and cause-minded. So millennials are very active in expressing their viewpoints and joining organizations that they can express their viewpoints. 9 out of 10, according to a study by ConeCom, will switch brands for a brand that supports a cause that they support, right? So even if you don't want to verbally commit to a cause, you can still shout out, what you believe in from the rooftops by your actions. Be sharing those actions. Be sharing what you're doing out in the community. So sales and messaging strategies. I'm going to go through these, and I want to dive into some actionable tips that you guys can use. I know we could talk about things until we're blue in the face, but hopefully there's some tips at the end of this that you guys can take back and implement for some immediate impact. Build your brand as a trusted advisor. Again, stop selling. If you sell anything, sell value, right? Let your product sell itself. Be a thought leader, right? That's a way for you to connect with people and build connections without necessarily selling your service, which is a lot easier connection to make when you're connecting with somebody strictly for the purpose of helping them out. Host financial literacy workshops. Invest in video and online learning. Again, video is essential because it's something that you can reuse, and it's easy for people to digest that information. Consider adding text to a video. There's a lot of time people watch videos where they're not in a place where they can have sound. Take advantage of using text on your video so someone can watch a video in silence, but still get that same message, and you're still using up that same amount of real estate, right? Even if you want to use display ads, you don't want to use a video, make your ads GIFs. Use jiffy.com to take that same amount of real estate, but have the words flow over, right? So in that same amount of real estate, you can have multiple messages, your features, and then end it with a call to action that's directing people to your website. And that direction needs to be specific. Don't just send people to your homepage, because at that point you're asking them to do the work that you need to be doing. You need to be making your audience's job as easy as possible. They should be able to get to your website and easily find what they need. Don't expect for people to go around and look for what they need. It's your job to make that accessible for them. Lead with purpose, not sales again. I know I keep repeating that, but it's so important not to just focus on sales because people can sense that, right? Be active in the community. Build partnerships with local organizations that do good for the community and global causes. Host volunteer days and promote community involvement. Anything you're doing out in the community, record that. Share that information. That's a way for you to be present, be human, without just promoting yourself all the time. It's very self-serving if the only things you're putting out there are advertisements and stuff about your product or service. But how are you also providing value back into the community? Again, incorporate video. Video is the most effective way of getting conversions, right? Imagine your social media feed. When you're scrolling down your feed, you're scrolling through your email, it's a lot of noise, right? And you want something that's gonna stand out, right? So typically anything that's engaging or moves is gonna catch someone's eye. Record videos for social media, frequently asked questions, quick tips, testimonials. And one thing that does is it keeps you honest, right? If you have a goal, I need to record one monthly industry tip video per month. It ensures that you're getting one new piece of content every month, and that's what you can share, right? So as opposed to running an ad promoting your business, run an ad promoting a guide that helps people make those smarter decisions. At the end of the day, the goal is to get them into your door, right? So we're getting them to our website, but we're doing it with something that's helping them, as opposed to expecting them to see my company across all the other hundreds of my competitors and just choose me because I paid for an ad. Record a screen share video with BombBomb. So shout out to Kristen Messarelli. She couldn't make it today. She came down with pneumonia, but her company actually partners with BombBomb. And what BombBomb does is they allow you to send emails out en masse. But when people open that email, they're opening up a video. So imagine you get an email, as soon as you open it, it's a video message from you. And it's describing anything you want to describe, explaining anything you want to describe. And again, that can also be an animated video, 1 to 2 minutes, that are also very easy to set up. But be more engaging and be mindful that people don't want to read a bunch of copy. And do-it-yourself videos are really taking off. People want to be able to do their own research. So help empower people to make smarter decisions. and be authentic. Create a personalized experience online and in person. And personalization is really one of the biggest ways you can bypass a lot of the typical things you need to do to build trust. You can do that by being transparent and personalizing your messages, which I'll get into a little bit more in a second. But meet in person with people. Try FaceTiming. That's a very common way to connect. Try FaceTiming with people so you can get video chat. There's something to say for, and I think you would all agree, there's something to say for that face-to-face connection, that face-to-face interaction versus via email, back and forth. I think it's really easy to lose interest when you're communicating with someone via email 2 to 3 times a day, as opposed to just having that drawn-out face-to-face interaction. Invite family members, have something at the office. The whole goal here is to remove those communication barriers. And lastly, I'm just going to leave this here for a second. Strengthen your own personal brand. This is something that's free and you should be doing always, right? You should be growing your brand continuously because you can potentially be the biggest salesperson and marketer for your organization, and you and your business reaching out to the same audience allows you to touch people multiple times. On average, the person needs to come in contact with the brand 6 to 7 times before it really sticks. So keep that in mind. You can't hit people once and wonder why no one's contacting you back. There's a lot of people contacting them, so you need to stay at the top of mind. And I'm going to walk you through some channels that we can do that. I call these my social support tips. These are just some out-of-the-box things you can take back home, implement, or at the very least, discuss them with your team. Get their thoughts on them, see why they will or wouldn't work with your particular audience. And at the very least, the goal there is to help you formulate a strategy that you can stick to. So I call this the digital marketing lead process map. In a nutshell, this is digital marketing. This is from start to finish the digital marketing process. You are going to generate prospects first, and that's typically going to happen from these 3 buckets. Display advertising, if you ever hear display advertising, that's just not the typical text ad you see when you search something on Google. Those can be those image ads you see on social media, when you're on wallstreetjournal.com or any of those publications, if you're on D News, those websites on the right sidebar or along the top, those images are called display ads, and they can also be videos. If you're ever watching a video on YouTube or on the news, those advertisements that come 25 seconds before your video on Hulu, those are display ads as well. So you can leverage YouTube to get your videos out there as well. The great thing about advertising videos versus images is all of that traffic is associated back to your YouTube channel, right? So let's say you promote a video, I'll throw out a small number, $50. All of those views that you're getting are associated back to your brand. You own your YouTube channel. So all of that activity is associated back to your website. So that and Pinterest, social media, those are free tools you need to be making sure you're sharing content on, because naturally, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, they're gonna get a ton of traffic. Any impressions you're getting from there is associated back to your website. It gives you more authority. The goal there is anyone locally, especially locally, searching for anything relevant to your brand or you specifically, nobody in Google should come up above you. When someone searches for you start locally and someone searches for you, you need to be coming up first, right? Paid and organic search, that's what that refers to, is those are keywords that you're paying for to show up first in Google. And I have some hacks there for you that may work out. And then social media. Social media is, the no-brainer way to be staying consistent and present in front of your target audience. Give yourself a goal. You need to post this many times a week, ideally once a day, and stay present and continue to grow that network every day. It's important that once you generate the prospect, you have the path laid out for them that you want them to take. Don't just send people to your homepage and expect them to just know what they need to do. If you're running an ad focused on first-time home buyers or an ad focused on people in Texas, when they click that advertisement, that landing page needs to speak to the same thing that they just clicked on. So if you have an ad that's running for first-time home buyers, they click that ad. When they get to your website, that landing page should have copy that's relevant to first-time home buyers. If you send them to your website and you have information about refinance and first-time home buyers and this and that, they're going to get overwhelmed a lot of the time. And they're going to go look for somewhere else that it's easier. So have that contact form on that landing page, that copy that's relevant to that ad, have that contact form right there where they can contact you. Make it so they don't have to click anywhere else. They can convert right there. Once you get them to your site, the goal is to convert that lead. You can do that through a variety of ways. Content is king right now, though. If you want people to hand over their contact information, provide something of value in return. Simply saying you'll contact them a lot of times just isn't enough. And even if that is the case, still provide something of value. Provide an ebook, a playbook, a guide, a tip list, something of value that says, okay, I'm gonna give over my information because I'm looking for this information right now and I need it from an expert. And also there's programs out there for B2B organizations. They have programs like On Demand that can allow you to identify people or organizations that are actually browsing your website. Or you can use cookie programs that allow you to remarket. Somebody comes to your website and they leave. Now they're seeing they have a higher possibility of seeing your ads. Google has even made it so you can bid on interest. Somebody shows interest in buying a home in a specific location. You can target that specific keyword. It's gonna lower your cost per acquisition because now you're only targeting people that are relevant. If you run an ad focused on keywords, you can get people that are just looking to research it, students. You really need to focus on narrowing down your target audience because that's how you drive down your costs for advertising. Once you get a lead, you need to nurture them all the way to close. Don't just get a lead, have a conversation with them, and from there just try to make a decision. No, continue to nurture them. Even if they're not ready to buy then, continue to nurture, continue to brand yourself as a thought leader. Use email. Start a monthly newsletter. Newsletters are great because, again, they ensure that you're coming up with at least one new piece of content per month. You don't want to be going months and months on end with the same static content. If you're not producing new content, you're essentially advertising, you're shooting with blanks. You don't have ammunition to reload your advertising, right? So advertising shouldn't even come across your conversation if you haven't taken a hard look at your marketing. And then lastly, lead assignment. Lead assignment's huge because, again, if you're not getting in contact with people within that first hour or two, your chances drop tremendously. And then also dabble into SMS. Start using text messages, emails. You may see a better response rate. Some people may not have time to talk on the phone throughout the day, and some people may prefer text message, like me personally. So try some of those out as well. So I wanted to highlight some Google advertising campaigns that I typically employ for customers out of the box. The reason I like these campaigns is because they really cover the entire board, and it's easier to chip away than add things in, especially when it comes to advertising dollars. So the generic campaign, that's the one most people go for. Most people think Google advertising, that's, oh, somebody's searching for this topic, this is what I do, I want to show up in the search there. That's great, but there's going to be a lot of competition there. So think outside the box. If you have a competitor in your industry that's is the top dog, bid on their name. If you know that when someone's searching for your service, they have a top competitor in mind, try bidding on that competitor's name. Chances are the only person bidding on that competitor's name is them. So the cost per click is going to be extremely lower than if you're bidding on want to buy my first home in Texas or whatever, generic search there. Try bidding on publications. If you know your target audience is frequently subscribing and reading a publication, try to bid on those publications as keywords, right? So somebody searching for those publications or going to their website, your ad's going to pop up first, or your ad's going to pop up on those publications' websites, right? It all goes back to targeting your specific audience. And the goal there is saving you more advertising dollars. You don't want to just be throwing money at advertising if you don't know your cost per acquisition. And then once you know your cost per acquisition, make sure it's as low as possible. Industry analyst campaigns is the same thing as publication campaigns. If you know there's popular industry analysts out there, bid on their names. When people search for them to learn more about your product or service, you should be coming up first. And the idea there is not as many people are bidding on those as the typical keywords. Conferences and events, that's pretty straightforward. If there's a conference and event that you're going to be attending and you want to set up meetings there, run an ad for that particular conference. The idea there is as people go to register, they'll see you. And what I've seen in the past is people will meet you at a conference and say, I've heard of you somewhere. I don't know where I've heard of you from. And it gives you that instant credibility, right? And then again, there's some final notes here. Each ad and landing page should have copy and imagery specific to the ad, right? So again, if you're focused on geography or someone looking for a particular service, let the imagery on that ad or that landing page speak to that so it resonates, right? People feel like I was meant to be here. This is meant for me. I'm not just on a website or with a company that provides the service that I need. No, this page was made specifically for me, and they can help me directly. And then lastly, just know your cost per acquisition. If you're running a campaign on Google, have each campaign have its own budget, and take a hard look at what is my actual cost per acquisition. If it's costing you $500 to get a lead, and you're not making that margin back off a sale, stop it, do something else. Try to optimize it, get it as low as possible. And if by targeting that's not helping you out, try a different avenue, try a different campaign, try video, try display, but don't continue to do it if it's not workly or cost effective. So lastly, I just wanted to open the room up for questions, but then I also want to use this opportunity. If you guys are having any issues with your digital marketing initiatives, if you're having trouble with advertising, if there's any issues you're seeing, I'd like to maybe address those and help out with the strategy if we can today. So any questions? So all of you guys are killing it in sales? Okay. Here we go. So I think it varies. So his question was, what's the optimal amount of content you should be producing on social media? I think it varies, but I think a good goal to have is aim for once a day. That way, if you fall short, you're still getting close to that mark. But I think everyone's goal should be try to have some content that you can produce once a day. Think outside the box. It's okay to reshare. If you have a popular online publication, reshare some great content pieces that they may have posted. Add your insights to it. Tell them why you think it's a great post. If you have testimonials, incentivize your current customers, your previous customers, to leave you a Google review or see if you can meet up with them and get a picture with them, right? And share that information. Share what you did for that customer. And that just all goes back to dictating the narrative around your brand, right? You have the chance to say what people are saying about your brand. So it's important that you're putting content out continuously to dictate that narrative. Question right here.
What would your average budget be for a small, medium, and large brokerage?
So it really does vary. I think it's safe. A number that I found to be safe, and you can always dial it back if need be, is I start with $50 a day. But the beauty of that is, with Google versus some of these other platforms like Facebook advertising, you have a chance to dial that back before. So if your ad is targeted enough, you shouldn't be hitting your budget every day because you're targeting a very specific audience, and you need to make sure you're adding in interest. But I think that $50 a day mark is a good mark for all sizes, because you use it for a few weeks, even up to a month, and use that to see how much traffic is coming. If you need to hike it up, then do that. But I think that's just a good starting number. And you'll notice one campaign I left off is brand campaign. That's a campaign at the very least. If you have a very small budget, run a brand campaign. That's anyone searching for your brand specifically, you're going to come up at the top. What that does is that gets you a lot more impressions, and it also is a very low cost, right? So what you'll see is sometimes if you search for your brand, someone may come up above you. But for you to bid on that, since you own that asset, it'll be 1 cent per click, 2 cents per click. But you getting those ad impressions from Google is giving your site more authority. It all goes back to more authority. But to answer your question, $50 a day is personally what I go with for starters. You need to be monitoring that continuously. And if you're not getting at least one conversion out of that, you either need to reevaluate your target audience, you need to broaden that, but you should be getting at least one conversion out of a $50 a day campaign. Question right here. It's a mic right behind you coming.
Yeah, I think it's clear the sweet spot of your expertise is how to reach a millennial, which, if not underserved, at least underreached by the financial segment. Mm-hmm. Is there any crossover of some of the techniques to a different generation, my generation? We're starting to become more active online, and the stuff that you're using to reach millennials may have some crossover to reach sort of a boomer generation. Any studies on that? Or are they two separate marketing techniques that you use?
What I've noticed is it completely varies by industry. And the beauty of analytics, Google Analytics specifically, is that you can find that answer. You can, from Google Analytics, literally see, you can break up your reports by demographic, whether that's gender or age. And obviously, and most projects I do 24 to 35, they're the most active on websites. However, for older demographics, if you wanted to look at reporting for a particular range, in Google, you could say, I want to know people between 45 and up. What are they doing on my site? And you can see where they're coming to your site, what technology they're using to interact with your site. You can see if most are coming from desktop or mobile, what geographies they're in. So I think that's a case-by-case question. However, Google Analytics, it's so imperative that you have that and your conversions set up on your website so you can know from your marketing what's actually getting people to convert. From LinkedIn, Facebook, you need to have all of those conversions being tracked on your website. At the end of the month, you should be able to go in there and say, okay, what was the most effective for me this month? Was it Facebook? Was it LinkedIn? What page on my website is getting the most activity, right? And to your point, you can dial down on that and say, okay, now what page of my website is getting the most activity from this particular demographic, right? And then how are they finding, what are the lead sources, are the referral URLs, the sites that these people are coming from the same for boomers, like you said, as millennials? Are millennials finding out about my site a different way? And then that way, if you're advertising on that particular platform that's focused on millennials, your messaging can be a little bit different than your messaging that maybe, let's say you've realized that boomers come to your site, email's a bit more effective for boomers, right? That advertisement or the content that you push out via email can speak more to that audience versus your ads on social media that can speak more to your millennial audience.
You always have a specific landing page for the segment that's coming in and figure out a way to have the right click go to where.
Absolutely. Absolutely, exactly. If you know, for instance, let's say Facebook is better for your boomers, right? Your ads on Facebook should be, well, I'll take it a step further. You can actually target age ranges specifically with ads. So your ad that you're targeting for that specific range, that language would be different. That landing page that when people click on that ad would be different than the ad that's geared towards millennials that may have a little bit more flair and colors and things going. So that landing page is going to be different, and the best case scenario is for that to be seamless. When they click that ad, that landing page, that imagery should match that ad, right? And like you said, you want to speak specifically to who you're expecting to engage with that page. Don't ever send people to your homepage from an ad. Rule of thumb, you're better off sending people to your contact page, right to your request form. Don't send people to your homepage because those are empty clicks. 9 times out of 10, don't quote me on that, a high amount of times they'll leave, and that is proven. Any more questions? One right here.
Hello, I'm Michelle Caldwell-Thompson, broker owner, CTI Real Estate. My question is, how do you get contacts from one opportunity to another? For example, my firm does real estate, relocation, fiduciary services, and of course, REO. So if I'm having a really good response from my real estate advertising, how do I get that group of potential customers over to my fiduciary services section, REO? Should it be one bucket? Because you were talking on your slide about having different branding campaigns for the different target markets. How do I expose those customers to the other great things we do if they're in one bucket?
Great question, great question. So lead nurturing would be my first question, right? So you're fortunate enough to be in a position to where one of your campaigns is working. So once you capture that lead information, create campaigns that are geared towards that network, that contact base, right? And use those campaigns to periodically touch them with your different services. So maybe you're generating that contact information, have that automatically flow into a drip email campaign, or even use remarketing on those particular contacts, but this time on your remarketing, remarket your other particular service. Meaning they come to your site for that one particular, what was it again, the service that's working?
On a real estate relocation platform, because I'm in metropolitan DC, so we have a lot of relo. So relocation gets tons of leads and tons of clicks coming into metropolitan DC. And I want to expose some of those folks to property management, fiduciary services. How do I bridge that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're coming to you for real estate relocation, right? So once you get those contacts, have a segment to where you can identify that these are what these contacts came to the site from. Make sure you're tracking those segments, right? And then have a drip campaign that shares the different content that you want to push to them via email. And then you can also use that same segment for remarketing, meaning you can, anytime someone with that email address comes back to your site, they have a higher possibility of seeing your advertisements geared towards your other services. But the most impactful way, and I would say the easiest way to get directly in front of them is, now that you have the information, use it to share your other services. And you can really automate that process. If you want to if you know there's a 5 email track that you want to set people on, there's free tools like Constant Contact, MailChimp, that you can have that already set up, automated to where as soon as somebody signs up, they're automatically thrown into that drip campaign. Aside from any communication you're having with them, they should still be receiving a drip campaign. Even if they convert or become a customer, still stay at the top of mind, because those can become your brand champions. So I would love to answer questions all day. I'm gonna be right outside. Please come to me with questions, and I really appreciate your time, guys. Thank you so much.
Peace up, A-Town. Yeah. Okay.